Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today's space. I think it's the first time we start so timely. That's great. Happy Tuesday. It is today. And so nice to have you on, Chris.
Thank you. This is Diane I'm speaking with, right?
Yes, my name is Diane, social media manager for NIM. How are you today, Chris?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm great. Welcome, everyone. Shall we get started? You ready to answer some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, so today is all about Bankless DAO, and we'll touch a bit on privacy in Bankless DAO and your upcoming privacy series as well, which NIM will be taking part in. So to start with, can you give overview of what Bankless DAO is for the people who don't know and its mission, basically?
Yes. So Bankless DAO was actually started from the Bankless podcast. Bankless podcast, for those of you who don't know, is David Hoffman and Ryan Sean Adams have a regular podcast that they do. I think they have a daily release. If it's not daily, it's very close, and it used to be daily. They talk about blockchain, they talk about crypto economics, they talk about policies, they talk about some token talk. And in early 2001, they decided that they were going to form a DAO so they could kind of decentralize the work that they were doing and allow other people to tap into that. So they created a token called Bank Token. They didn't create it. I don't know who exactly. I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouths, especially when it comes to regulations, etc. But a token was created called the Bank Token, and that token is what governs Bankless DAO. People who were premium subscribers to the HQ podcast were airdropped full membership, which is 35,000 bank tokens. And all of a sudden, everybody was included in this big community. Some people sold their tokens and just exited. Some people held, and some people, like myself, just decided to stick around and become core contributors. The DAO itself originally consisted of 13 guilds, and each guild had a different initiative. So I was most involved with Design Guild. My work history is mainly creative, so photography, content creation, that type of thing. So Design Guild was a good fit for me. Tokenomics Guild, Marketing Guild, Ops Guild, all these different guilds that sort of took their own initiative and went with it. So Education Guild was responsible for creating new education initiatives. For me in Design Guild, it was a couple of weeks into the beginning of the DAO when I started, maybe 4 or 5 weeks in, and I didn't really know what to do. So even though I'd had the tokens, I wasn't really engaged. When I got there, I thought, okay, what am I here to do? How can I help? And I had a little guidance from some friends in the Design Guild who said, okay, maybe just if you feel like there's a role that needs to be created within Design Guild, create that role, and then we can put it to a vote, and whoever ends up filling the role is the person who ends up earning the bank tokens for doing the work. So I created a couple different roles in there. Talent coordinator, which helps put talented designers in touch with projects who need designers. And then I created a secretary role, which kind of helps do the booking. It's called the accounting role now. And so that's how the governance was built within Bankless DAO. People like myself and others who just saw a need for something, they created a proposal, we voted on it, and that sort of built out the ecosystem. From there, it's developed quite a bit. We have the first thing to come was projects. So people are allowed to form a proposal that requests bank tokens from the grants committee. If they receive bank, they can go on and create a project which is tied to Bankless DAO, and that is part of the overall mission, which I'll get to in just one sec here. And then we have departments, and the departments help the entire DAO run. So originally we had Operations Guild, now it's Ops Department, and a department is like something that is required for the DAO to run. So the DAO doesn't require a Design Guild. The Design Guild is there to help people learn about how to get involved with design initiatives within the crypto space. We couldn't run without an Ops Guild. we also couldn't run without, an ops department. We also couldn't run without a marketing department because we have to market ourselves. We have to have control over our brand and our look and our PR. So those are examples of what we need to actually function and operate. So we've got guilds, departments, and projects. Now, you asked about the mission as well. The Bankless DAO mission is to create user-friendly on-ramps for DeFi. So we're here to help 1 billion people get into crypto. And the idea is that the easier we make it for people to get involved, the sooner that will happen.
Okay, so if I understand, the mission is to try to get people into DeFi as easily as possible from their side?
Yeah, it's really just to get people involved in crypto. You know, a lot of the world thinks that crypto is a scam still, which it's understandable because it's easy to scam somebody in crypto. So part of what we do is education initiatives like Bankless Academy that teach people both the power of crypto and also how to interact while remaining safe.
Yes, I saw that you have a lot of educative initiatives. I wanted to follow up on what you said. So we have quite a few fans actually, even in our team of the Bankless podcast originally. So I think a lot of people know Bankless DAO from the Bankless podcast. And you said that was formed in 2001. So were you following the podcast even before then? Were you a subscriber and then you get the bank tokens? So from that long ago, or when did you get in?
Yeah, so I believe their podcast was started in 2020, I think towards the beginning of 2020. And during 2020, I was kind of doing my own thing, trying to get more involved with photography after the pandemic had slowed everything down. And as a side gig, or I guess you could just say for fun, I was starting to trade stocks and a few crypto tokens here and there. So I was looking for alpha, and Bankless podcast, the Bankless HQ podcast, provided sort of level-headed guidance on what was available in the crypto space. They didn't really seem to be shilling things, although some people do call them ETH shills. But I liked that they weren't out there shilling different tokens. They were providing insight to what was available. Whereas a lot of different podcasts, like if you look at BitBoy, you know, he was just there telling you what was going to be the next big token. And then behind the scenes, he was pumping and dumping. And there are a bunch of other ones who were providing so-called alpha, but in the long run, it just ended up being a scheme or a scam or a pump and dump. And with Bankless from an early phase, I realized, okay, these guys are actually in it for the tech. And that's what I'm in for. That's what I want to get involved with. I want to experience what's available in this ecosystem. And I saw that early on that that's what they were doing. I had no idea that they were going to be dropping a token. So I did subscribe as a premium subscriber probably 2 months before they dropped their token. And I thought, you know, I'll see what kind of alpha I can get from this premium subscription. Hopefully it will be useful to me. And lo and behold, it was, because I got 35,000 bank tokens out of it.
Nice. I hope your trading journey is still going well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can you tell us about the structure of Bankless DAO? Because I know you take you mentioned you have different departments and you have guilds as well and projects that are being granted tokens from is it a grants foundation program kind of thing that you have? Can you tell us a bit about the structure and how the community uses this structure?
Yeah, so we do have the grants program. The way it works is so let's say you have a project that you want to do. A good example is a project that I'm working on currently called Bankless Card. Now, the mission of Bankless Card is to increase crypto users. Ultimately, it's a means of onboarding people from Web 2 to Web 3. We'll be partnering with certain organizations, right? Different DAOs. Those DAOs can offer a card to their users or non-users. They can offer a card to anybody. And when people spend with that card, they'll be able to earn DAO tokens. So it's a crypto on-ramp. Now, we formed a proposal. We put it on the forums. People said, yes, this sounds great. And after it passed that proposal, then we went ahead and sat in front of the grants committee. And the grants committee reviewed the proposal, set certain KPIs, set long-term goals and short-term goals, and then they allocated us the bank that we need. So now we hold that bank in the Bankless card safe, the multi-sig, and we use that to generate work. So we compensate people using governance tokens, those bank tokens. We say, okay, here's a bounty. We need a certain page designed. You design that and you get X amount of bank. And we have proactive and retroactive rewards for those as well. So we know that certain roles need to be filled. Like I'm the partnerships lead, so I know that I'm going to be getting X amount of bank per week to do that. It's a very low amount. It's like 5,000 bank per week, which is a few dollars. It's not a lot. And then we also have retroactive rewards for people. So let's say somebody creates a new Twitter banner and everybody loves it. We decide to use it. And then we can put in a proposal saying, we propose to pay this person 5,000 bank, and people vote on it, and that's approved. And then it moves to the next step.
Oh, and do you guys use Discord for your activities?
Discord is our main hub of activity, yes. Mm-hmm. And that's like the first step in the voting chain. So we find consensus there within our chat. We can vote within members of that project, or we can open it up to a DAO-wide vote. And then the next step is discourse. So discourse is our forum, and we would create a proposal on there with a poll at the bottom. People vote yes or no. If it's under a certain threshold, then that can just go straight to grants committee, and grants committee can approve or deny if required. Certain things like BDIPS, which is a Bankless DAO improvement proposal, that has to go to Snapshot. So after we've created our sort of initial consensus in Discord, we move to discourse on the forum. That gives everybody else a chance to look it over and approve or deny. If that reaches quorum, and if that reaches, I think it has to be something like 80% in approval, then it moves on to Snapshot. If there's money involved, the grants committee would get involved as well. If there's no money involved, then it goes straight to Snapshot, and that's how people can vote using their bank tokens.
Cool. And you mentioned that I saw on the website the goal of Bankless DAO is basically to onboard 1 billion people to crypto. How many people do you currently have in your DAO?
Well, see, this is where the metrics get a little bit funny, because so there are 1 billion bank tokens. And initially we thought, okay, well, our goal is to get everybody with a bank token, but how's that going to work? Because there's only 1 billion of them, and we want 1 billion people. And we soon realized, okay, that's not at all the mission. We don't want 1 billion people holding bank token. We don't want 1 billion people in the Bankless DAO server. If 1 billion people had heard of Bankless, that would be fantastic, because the brand cachet then would have a lot more power. But it's really an unmeasurable metric, because we don't know how many people we're onboarding specifically. There's been some discussion of whether we should change that metric because it's so immeasurable, but it's a good long-term goal, right? Once we've got 1 billion people using crypto, then we'll have broken through the barrier, and people won't see it as a scam. They'll see it as useful, and they'll be actually getting real world use out of it. So we kind of use that metric with a grain of salt, but we do have a very healthy community. During the bull market, we had thousands of people in the Discord server on a regular basis, and the type of talent that came through was really just incredible. I met execs from Google. I met startup founders who had exited multiple times. We had some New York Times authors who were in there contributing in the Writers Guild. Some fantastic podcast producers have come through, and some of them have stayed, and some of them have taken some of our contributors under their wings and they've moved on. And now what we're really focusing on is this whole onboarding journey. So when somebody jumps into the Bankless DAO, they start to initiate themselves with, okay, what is crypto? What's MetaMask? What is an opportunity that I can see here within the crypto industry? And then eventually, how can I get a job in crypto? When we've had a number of people who have done that type of thing. One great example is this guy called I Speak Nerd, and he was a teacher, a math teacher, and he decided to get into the Bankless DAO and contribute wherever possible. And now he's quit his teaching job and he's a full-time employee with Collabland. And so that's a great example of how Bankless DAO has kind of taken newbies to crypto and initiated them and helped them reach a new potential.
I see. That's super nice. So you're fostering a community and teaching people basically how to fish by themselves, as we say, and go into the crypto world themselves. I think that's super cool. And you mentioned to me privately that next month you'll be doing a privacy themed series. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this. So this is something that came about over a number of months. I had been speaking to different projects who are in the privacy realm. First, I started speaking with Secret Network. They host a number of education initiatives, and they also offer some privacy consulting services. And there's a number of other things involved with Secret Network. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could move the conversation further beyond just talking about a specific project, which we've traditionally done in the AMAs with Bankless DAO, and talk about a theme, right? So that led me to also consider Fractal ID as another guest. And then you actually got in touch with us via DMs here on Twitter. That same week, I'd been working on the privacy theme series, and I thought, wow, Nim would be a perfect addition to that. So we've added you to the list. We have Modulus, which is a ZK rollup network being built by Cult DAO. And now we have Aleph Zero. So we have 5 guests all lined up starting from November 1st. And we'll be running this over 5 weeks. And yeah, we're just going to talk about blockchain privacy, the pitfalls, the benefits, what's out there, how people can get involved, how people can help, and how they can secure themselves.
Yes, as I understand it, for NIM, we're going to be doing one-to-one interview with you on Space, and then at the end of the month, there will be a roundtable with everyone. And just so that everyone knows, Jaya, our CSO, will be joining that series. So yeah, stay tuned. I'd like to ask as well, have you had any considerations before among Bankless DAO about privacy, maybe community of people interested in privacy in Web3 or a guild related to it? What was their previous interest? Have you seen people caring about this, wondering how can I improve my privacy in my crypto journey as well? Because you mentioned that there's a lot of scams in crypto. So has there been interest before among your DAO?
It's definitely a recurring theme. The interesting thing about crypto and public blockchains is that even though we can remain anonymous ourselves, right? You can spin up a wallet. Nobody has to know who that person is or where those transactions are coming from, but none of the transactions are private at all. So this is a major downfall compared to operating in the traditional banking system, where I could have 5 different bank accounts with 5 different banks, and although they might have that information, which is not ideal, that the banks are sharing information with each other, it's also a case that nobody else can figure out what my bank accounts are, right? You would need very high authority to be able to go in and find out what bank accounts I actually have. Whereas with public blockchain, anybody can go to Etherscan and put in the transaction number and figure out how much money was moved from where to where. You can backtrack it. You can figure out how the wallet was seeded. You can eventually tie that to a KYC account, and everything is essentially public. This is why they hate Tornado Cash so much, right? Because they can't figure out where these funds are coming from. Now, that's a whole other discussion that we don't really have time to get into today, whether or not Tornado Cash is good or bad for the industry. But I do see that we're moving in that direction. People want to be able to do their normal everyday banking without their neighbor knowing how much money they have. That's a big drawback to crypto, is that anybody can figure out exactly how much money you have. And once we start tokenizing assets, they're going to be able to figure out what cars you own. They're going to be able to figure out when was the last time you had your car serviced, if your house has been re-roofed recently, all these different things. As we tokenize real world actions and real world assets, they're all public. So how do we inject privacy into that? In terms of whether or not people have been seeking this, as I said, it's a reoccurring theme within Bankless DAO. And yeah, I feel like it's one that we need to really start exploring.
That's really good to know. So is this how you decide your kind of education initiatives? Do you change every month? Do you pick a topic based on interest from the community within the DAO? Because I see that you do this next month, you're doing privacy. This month you did something else. How is the process like?
Well, because we have so many different initiatives within Bankless DAO, we have different people running different projects. We have different guilds who are in charge of different things. And up to now, we haven't necessarily had that structure to determine a program. So it's something that we're moving towards, and it's definitely something we talked about. What comes after privacy? Should we have maybe 6 themes in a year, and then we go back and we revisit those themes at that same time each year? That's something that is a possibility, but I'm sure you've heard this term if you work in a DAO. Organizing anybody in a DAO ecosystem is like herding cats. And if you have a great idea, it can gain traction, but unless you have a budget, it's really difficult to make it work on a constant, steady basis, unless it is your love, right? If you make it your own thing and you own that and you go with it, that is usually a recipe for success in the DAO ecosystem. But it's so hard to do that because even though people have these passion projects, they also have their family lives, their IRL job, other initiatives in the DAO space. So we're working towards that, but it's not something that we've actually rallied behind as a DAO yet.
Yes, of course. So is there hierarchy in the DAO based on the number of tokens owned, for example, or the seniority of the person? Or is it like you get voted through and then you're a certain position, like yourself, for example, you have access to the Bankless DAO account on Twitter and you host several initiatives as well. So how many other people like you are there? And is this like top, what kind of hierarchy is it? I'm quite curious about that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So if anything, I would say it's a reputation-based hierarchy. If you are known for delivering good things for the DAO, people then trust you to deliver more good things for the DAO. If you are known to start projects and then disappear off the face of the earth, people probably won't take your initiatives with as much vigor as they would somebody else. In terms of token ownership, no, really there is no hierarchy when it comes to token ownership, except for the fact that whales can sway the vote, right? So it does enter politics in a way, but we're working on initiatives that will sort of detract from that, possible weighted voting strategies. So I don't know if everybody here is familiar with the way that token voting works. You have a number of different strategies you can use. You can use one token, one vote, which means, okay, I have 1,000 tokens and you have 100 tokens, so I have 10 times more voting power than you do. And then the person with 1,000,000 tokens comes along and neither one of us is relevant all of a sudden. Then you have quadratic voting, which is if for every time, I believe it's for every time you double the number of tokens, you get one extra vote. So two tokens would be one token is one vote, two tokens is two votes, four tokens is three votes, eight tokens is four votes. Somebody feel free to check me on that, but it's something like that. That reduces the amount of power that a whale has. And there are some other mechanics that you can build into quadratic voting, which makes it more fair. Then you have this weighted voting strategy. And I'm sure there are other voting strategies out there, but weighted voting is one that we're looking into, whereby it uses reputation metrics along with token holdings to give you different voting powers. We're currently using this in one of the sub DAOs, the Bankless DAO, and we have fighter levels. Basically, the project is called Fight Club, and it's a venture community, a venture club. Now we have 3 different levels of NFT. There's the Genesis NFT of the people who were involved at the very beginning, and we wanted to give those people a slightly higher voting power because they were the starters of the initiative, and they are the ones who are rallying around it and making it a success. But we also didn't want to make it extremely overweighted. So a Genesis member who has not participated at all actually has less voting power than the person who bought the last NFT and participates on a regular basis. We wanted to make that more fair. So we have 2 different metrics that are valued. One is the NFT, gold, red, and black NFTs, and they have voting power of, I think, 1, 3, and 5, 5 being the gold, the Genesis. And then we have the fighter levels. Fighter level 0 is somebody who's just basically starting off, and they can access certain levels within the Discord, and they can vote on certain things within there, but they don't have any snapshot voting power. They don't have an NFT, and they don't have the soulbound token of the Fighter 1. Then we have Fighter 1, Fighter 2, Fighter 3, Fighter 4, and as you go up, you get slightly more voting power. So you could have, say, a gold NFT and Fighter 1, and that gives you X amount of voting power, or you could have a black NFT and Fighter level 4, and that would give you a higher voting level. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, I'm glad I asked this question because I feel like a lot of people are confused about this process in DAOs. I myself have not been part of a DAO, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, it clarifies a lot of things. And you mentioned DAO politics as well. I think that's a super interesting topic. Maybe something to get into later on, not from our side, but for you. It's it's very interesting. And okay, we're running out of time, so I'll just ask you a last question to close up. How do you see the future of Bankless DAO?
Well, this is a great question as well, because a lot of people have been wondering that themselves. As I mentioned, we were started by Bankless HQ, David and Ryan. And because of this sort of legal unclarity around who can issue a token, who can promote a token, if a token is a security or not, and the fact that they are probably persona non grata when it comes to Gary Gensler, they've taken a step back. And so what we initially had with their support was they were talking about the DAO constantly on the podcast, but now they can't really discuss it. So it's now in our hands. It's in the hands of the community to make it succeed or not succeed. Personally, I see that as a really good thing because we love David and Ryan and we love their support, and we're trying to find ways that we can integrate HQ and the DAO together to work together. But there's still this sort of legal gray zone where we can't necessarily ask them to promote any of our things because it may have negative implications for them legally. It's the last thing we want. So currently what we're doing within Bankless DAO is we have people who are trying to take us to the next step. We have some things that we're trying to fix, like onboarding. Let's fix onboarding, make it so it's easier for people to get involved in our community. The grants ecosystem, let's make sure that projects are actually hitting their KPIs and that any project that gets approved for bank is actually going to use it well, because historically we've given away bank to projects which either didn't use it well or it's been trapped now in a multi-sig and we're not able to retrieve it. So there have been a number of issues. So it's really just looking at what we've done over the past 2.5 years and streamlining everything. Long term, I could see Bankless DAO turning into a nonprofit education organization, which enables us to actually, it would enable a number of things. Now, of course, this is not legal advice for anybody out there. As far as I understand, if we became a nonprofit educational organization, that would mean that A, we could receive donations from companies out there, and they may be able to write them off as tax deductible. And B, with a legal entity, we could enter more business agreements. Because currently we kind of exist in this gray space where we're not sure what's legal, we're not sure what's illegal, and we certainly don't want to do anything that's upsetting, any government regulations. We need to be compliant, mostly compliant. I'm sure there are some areas where we could push the boundaries a little bit, and that's how change is made. But yeah, right now it's trying to figure out, how do we become legally compliant? How do we become something that people value in the educational space? And then how do we continue to support our projects to become revenue generating and profitable so the DAO can succeed long term?
Nice. Thank you for this in detail response. Love your accounting and legal non-advice as well. Thank you so much, Chris. I want to state that today's space has been recorded and will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel later on. We can also pass you the recording if you'd like. And NIM will be hosted by Bankless DAO next month, so I'll be sharing that as well on our account. I think that's all. Thank you so much for coming on, Chris. And we'll speak to you very soon. Any last words? Closing words, sorry.
No, nothing from me except thank you very much. And then we're really looking forward to hosting you next month. For anybody involved, take a look at the Bankless DAO Twitter, follow us, and keep your ears open for the next space announcement, which should be going out today or tomorrow. And that will be for Secret Project AMA starting November 1st.
Amazing. Okay, have a good rest of the day, everyone. And thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. See ya.
Bye. See ya.
Bye-bye.